Afternoon, everyone. My name is David Duvak, flight instructor, charter pilot, contract pilot, ferry pilot. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Like, comment, subscribe. If you like what you see, please hit the smash button, as they call it, or leave a comment in the comment section. We're producing new videos weekly here, trying to keep the channel going, trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. And also, feel free to leave a recommendation as to something you want me to cover. Today's topic, we're going to cover crosswind operations. It entails proper crosswind inputs during ground operations, proper crosswind inputs during takeoff operations, speeds to fly, flap settings, things like that, and proper crosswind methods for the landing. So we're in this nice, beautiful 1979 Grumman Tiger. I hope you liked the last video we made, and it'll be featured in a good deal of the videos that we're making here. That's that. So let's get to it. Okay, today's episode, we're going to talk about crosswind operations. There's many things to consider when executing crosswind operations in a light general aviation aircraft. One of the factors is gust speed of the wind gust, skill set, and comfort level, because some pilots might be more comfortable and better at handling stronger winds and some not so. And another thing to consider too is operational conditions. We're situated today at the Trenton Robbinsville Airport, an airport that has obstructions close to the runway. Not quite as extreme as my place, Old Bridge, where the trees, we have trees very close to the threshold, but trees is something to consider when operating at a place with gusty crosswinds. Another factor to consider is direction and the right inputs. We're going to talk about that here in this video. So first and foremost, you get a weather briefing like you do before every flight. You note the wind direction, speed. In many cases, the wind speed is going to have something called a gust to it, meaning it's one speed, but it's gusting up to another speed, making it windier at that moment. And sometimes you'll have steady state winds, which is another ordeal to deal with at times. So first and foremost, your inputs start as soon as you start taxiing the aircraft to maneuver to your active runway. Right now we're using runway 29, and we know that because if you look at the hangar way over there, it's got the airport name on it, there's a wind indicator called the windsock, where at what I call the trunk end or the heavy end is facing in a particular direction, the wind favors that particular side of the runway. So right now the wind is favoring runway 29. It's a west wind day, 12 knots, gusting 20, a pretty good healthy windy day here in New Jersey. So your inputs need to be happening from the moment you turn the motor and start maneuvering yourself to the runway. So if the wind's at your back, you want to think position the ailerons into the wind and press the elevator, which is this, away from the wind. So you think turn in and dive away. The reason why is that if it's a really hostile, I shouldn't say hostile, but if it's a really windy day, it's possible the wind could get underneath the wings, lift the aircraft, and then steer you off the taxiway, and you don't want that. It's not so prominent with a low wing plane like this Tiger, but it is bound to happen from time to time. The tail wheel planes, commonly referred to as the tail draggers, they're the ones that encounter the crosswinds much worse than your typical tricycle gear aircraft. So you line up to your runway, you complete your before takeoff items, and now it's time to position the aircraft on the runway and take off. So now you got to position the controls appropriately from the FAA handbook, which describes this. So you're going to hold center line by positioning the right inputs on takeoff. So it's pretty simple to take off, regardless of the direction, or the angle rather. If it's a 10 degree or a 90 degree angle, you always position the aileron, that's the yoke, into the wind, like so. So if the wind's from the right of the runway, you want to think right aileron up. Aileron will give that effect, that wall effect, so you don't drift off the center. And depending on the severity of the wind, it is a safe idea to consider using a higher liftoff speed. Liftoff speed 60 knots in this plane. If I have a 20 knot gust, I might lift off at 65 knots or 70. The reason being is that I'll have more control authority, more control muscle when I get in the air and get flying. I did mention trees as a factor when commencing crosswind operations. And the reason I bring up trees is that in the state of New Jersey, we have a lot of airports with trees my airport being one, this airport being another, and many airports in New Jersey have trees. In the state of New Jersey, within the last 15 years, we've had a high number of accidents due to trees being close to the runway, trees being close to the runway, somewhat resulting in loss of control accidents we've had in the state during crosswind days. So trees, something to consider. Again, if I lift off at the normal liftoff speed that the book tells me to, it is possible I can get hit with some wild gust and I can go for a ride and a rodeo if I'm not ready for it. Not to say it can't happen at a higher liftoff speed, but the higher liftoff speed reduces that chance and gives me more strength to punch through it. So now the question is, when do I get rid of the inputs? Well, on takeoff, you're going to keep the inputs with the ailerons into the wind accordingly until you're free of leaving the traffic environment. What that means is that when you're ready to turn crosswind to your crosswind leg, if you're flying traffic patterns, or if you're flying away from the traffic pattern, then you can get rid of your inputs. That's that. Now, something to consider also when you're doing traffic patterns or multiple takeoff and landings with crosswinds is the angle of the wind and how you should fly your pattern. In a separate video, I'm going to cover how to fly normal traffic patterns on a normal optional day, which is a different discussion. But typically, us pilots, we fly a rectangular shaped pattern. So using this faded mark right here as an example, if that center piece right here in the asphalt is my runway, and my runway's 29, and I got a straight due north wind coming out of here, I want to maneuver myself far enough away so that I transition to the base area and the final approach area. I'm gonna join the final approach area facing the runway straight on. One of the common mistakes I see when I teach this to pilots of all levels is that they have this habit of trying to hug the downwind wingtip distance like they own the runway. Then when time comes to turn final, the wind's so strong they don't counteract for it. We're way over here in some other state because the pilot failed to consider the direction or the angle of the wind. So you want to make your downwind angles larger if the angle is much more significant than the runway direction you're landing on. So again, due north direction, fly something like a teardrop profile and get away from rectangular profile. That'll better enable your traffic patterns to be more straight on. So then, now we're on the downwind leg. We went through our pre-landing checks, everything checked out fine. Now, there's two things we can do on final approach to keep us straight and centered on the runway so we don't blow off and hit the trees. There's one method that pilots use called the crab method. Now, if the angle of the wind is not that extreme, like 30 degrees or 40 degrees off center, I'll start out with the crab method because all I'm doing is I'm taking my rudder with my feet and turning it into the direction of the wind. So if the wind is right side of center, I use right foot, make that tail move to the right, and the nose will aim itself right, holding a crab-like profile, straight through final approach, so I hold the center line. And then when I level off to my transition area to flare and land, I'm going to get rid of the crab so I don't land sideways and hurt myself. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to oscillate on if I need to. So if I'm flaring and I see I'm drifting off the center line a little bit, I'll oscillate, give partial pressure, and get rid of it, and land as if I had a no wind day. The other method is the wing low, which is much like a side slip. The wing low is where you take ailerons and bank the ailerons into the wind and place the rudder opposite of the wind. This is a method I use when I have a wide angle wind and I have normal or heavy gust. So I'll line up on final approach, place my ailerons into the wind and my rudder opposite. And the wing low, as this is also called, placing the wing in a wing low condition, the wing will act as a barrier so I don't get pushed off the center and wind up in the grass or the trees and worse. So now the question is, which is better? Well, that answer is more of an opinion. The FAA recommends we teach the crab method because the less of a chance there is to get a pilot to a cross-controlled stall exists by using the crab method. Depending on what plane you're flying, like I fly PC-12s and twin Cessnas, if my 310 and PC-12 is loaded with people, The wing low method is actually uncomfortable because the aircraft pivots at the rear, and anybody sitting in the rear seats will feel the aircraft jolt when doing so. The wing low varies on the aircraft you're flying. A wing low in something like this is no problem. It's not a wide airplane. A training plane, no problem. Again, no one's going to feel the jolting of the wing low or the aircraft positioning from level position to a slip when flying one of these. That answer is a matter of an opinion, crab or wing low. I say get comfortable with both, and if it's an extreme day, use both. The worst thing you could do is do nothing at all and get yourself in trouble and not make it someplace because you weren't proficient in crosswind ops. So now the next thing is you land successfully, you're on the ground, you want to tell your brain to keep flying. You are not done flying on a crosswind day until the aircraft is tied down, parked, and you're undocked of the aircraft. You want to keep your inputs in place when you're rolling down the runway on landing until you're off the runway, flaps are up, and you can go about your after landing items. All right, enough talk about crosswinds. Let's get in this tagger and go fly a crosswind takeoff or two. What's up? Well, we'll leave that for later. All right, guys, welcome aboard. CFI Dave Duvak, charter pilot, contract pilot. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you like. Any recommendations of anything you want to see, just leave a comment there. And as I was saying before, we're going to focus on crosswind operations today. It's a reasonably windy day today at Robbinsville. We're at Robbinsville Airport, Robbinsville, New Jersey. And as I was saying in the video before, your inputs begin as soon as you begin moving the aircraft. So first what you want to do is place your aileron in like this, and your elevator away from the wind, just like so. So wind's kind of right down the runway. So I think turn in, dive away. There's not really much to turn into right now. So we're going to place the elevators away from the wind, just like so. Wind's about 350 at 15, gust 2-1. Reasonably windy day here at the airport, but makes a good day for good practice. So we're going to go out. I want to demonstrate a crosswind takeoff followed by a gusty crosswind landing. And I'm going to show you the way I do it. I'm not going to do both methods. I may combine both methods in one pass here in the pattern. But this is going to be my way of showing you how I do it. So right now we're taxiing runway 29, and I got the controls positioned accordingly into the wind. So if I get a big gust, I'm not going to go flying nowhere. Okay, mixture leaned. Now just slow it on down so we don't get too fast here. Never in a big hurry to fly anything. The kind of pilot where I get there when I get there. All right, slowing on down. I got all the required lights set, we're trimmed. Okay, pad altitude here is 1,100 feet to right-hand direction and traffic pattern at this airport today. Alright, we're going to come to a stop just to beam the whole short line, and because it's a little windy, I'm going to turn the nose best I can into the wind. So without getting into a rut here, I'm going to place the plane like this. Just like that. There we go. Good. Alright. Go to our before takeoff checks. Just a wee bit rough. Okay. Good. Alright, still runs at idle with the carb heat on. That's good. Alright, abort plan. If I suspect any problems, I'm rolling. I'm going to stop the takeoff early. If I suspect any problems after I break ground, it's going to be treated like an in-flight emergency. We got green gauges, suctions into green. I unfouled the one mag there. I'm just going to turn around here on the ramp so I can maneuver to get to the runway. Okay, all the required lights are on. Turn around just like so. Alright, liftoff speed 60. Because of the wind, I'm going to lift off around 65, 70-ish. Better muscle for the controls. Route the traffic at a Grumman Taggart. Part 29, going to be right close traffic, Robbinsville. Okay, that's good. Alright, that runs into the wind. So the nose is nice and straight. There's 2.9 on the DG. Alright, everything's good to go. Make sure the nose is straight. Power coming up. Using the rudder to steer, just like any normal takeoff here. Alright. It runs into the wind. Airspeed coming alive. There's 60. Keeping the ground to about 70, and we're off. Checking the runway straight. Keep my ailerons alive, just like so. And we are still tracking over the runway center. That was a lot of fun. One nice thing about a gusty headwind is that the airplane gets off the ground very quickly. Look at that VSI climb right here, 1,400 feet a minute. I mean, that's a stellar climb rate for a light single. Here comes Crosswind. Robbinsville traffic, Tigers turn right, Crosswind here, Robbinsville.
Robbinsville traffic, 99 on Quebec is entering downwind, 2 miles to the north, flight inbound.
Alright, checking the traffic on the downwind. Powering back so I don't blow pattern altitude.
Downwind 32,
Robbinsville traffic, Tigers join right downwind, 29 Robbinsville. Alright, just power back. 2,000 is fine for the pattern. Now, as I was sitting on the ground, the wind is out of the due north, and we're landing on a west runway. So, if you look to the right, I can't fly a rectangular pattern. I got to aim my nose elsewhere. I can kind of make out New York City from right here, so I'm going to aim my nose this way. About a 060 heading-ish. So, I'm going from a rectangular pattern to a teardrop pattern, so I don't blow through final and put myself in an unstable position on final approach. All right, it's 2,000. The numbers is 45 degrees over my shoulders. Fuel pump still on. First stage of flaps coming in. Trim down. Now, even though I'm flying a teardrop pattern, I don't want to go so far out that if I lose the engine, I can't make it. So I'm going to turn base right here. Robbinsville traffic, Tigers turning right base, 29 Robbinsville. And one thing I do have to know is that there is tall trees close to the runway. And even though the wind is advertised as something, it may do something else down towards the tree levels. Now, I'll talk about that in a later video. That's called tree wash. But we have a trick here at this airport that I myself utilize so I get away from the tree wash. I intentionally land long. Route the traffic tagger is going to be based on final 2 9 Robbinsville, full stop.
Beautiful traffic, 99 Quebec, face, 32 feet.
Now, if it feels like okay, Gusty, like not airspeed going over the place, not rocket rolling over the place, I'm going to save the remaining flaps for final approach. If it's super gusty to the point where I can't control the airplane very well, but I can maintain the runway, I'll probably consider using a no-flap landing. I just need to make sure if I do that, that I have the runway available to do that. Some airplanes are really difficult to land flapless. This airplane is one of them. Alright, tagger short final 2 Robbinsville, full stop. Alright, feels okay. I'm going to go full flaps. And I'm going to go into a crab here. Alright, there's right rudder, full flaps. Normal approach speed, 70 knots. I'm going to do 80 for the wind. Be a lot of right rudder. So I'm going to use some power to punch through the tree wash, just like so. Just like so. There I am, running in at the nose there. A little bit of a rodeo. And there's the trees pushing me up. Power coming out. And just flying like a normal landing. Alright, now below the tree level, I'm just going to hold the nose off. Land like I would normally. Hold the nose off. Keep my feet alive. Hold the nose off. Hold it. Hold it. Hold it. There's the horn. There's the horn. And we're down. And I want to keep flying the airplane mentally in my head. So, ailerons into the wind just like that. Nose is staying up just like that. Not too gusty out. I'd say it's probably 18 knots across the runway. That's how you do a crosswind, takeoff and landing. Alright, we're going to exit the runway here, do our cleanup items. Let's follow that lean line. Route the traffic on the taggers clear of 29, Robbinsville. Okay, fuel pump off, mixture to lean for ground operation. Fuel's in the fullest tank. Lights can stay on. Strobes can come off. Alright, transponder can stay on. Alright. There you have it, folks. Crosswind operations. I showed you a crosswind takeoff, preceded by a crosswind landing. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. And again, if you have any recommendations for anything you want to see in the future, just let us know. Thank you.